Hi, I'm Tim and this is Lennart from the band Amenra. We're here at my little studio space in Lemberg to take a look at Lennart's guitar rig. So maybe we can start off with the guitar you're holding right now.
This is my main guitar that I've been using for Amenra for the last decade or so. It's a 1988 Gibson Les Paul, it says Showcase Edition here on the back. And it's kind of a weird hybrid between a Les Paul Custom and a Les Paul Standard. For instance, it has an ebony fretboard, which is typical for the Custom. And that makes that it sounds a little bit more towards a Custom than a regular Standard would. It originally came with EMG pickups, but that didn't work at all for Amenra, so I swapped those for Gibson pickups, Gibson 500T and 490R.
All right.
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, so does it still have the cavity of the EMG battery?
It actually never had a dedicated cavity. The battery was just in the control thing. Yeah, as you can see, it has been used and abused a little bit. Like, for instance, on our last show in Russia, it was someone put it next to a light, and part of the neck finish got molten.
So, oh my god.
Yeah. So yeah, I might I'm kind of on the lookout for an alternative for this guitar to retire this one. Next up is my GCI guitar.
Oh yes. Thank you. So that's GodCity instruments?
Yeah, that's Kurt Ballou from Converge who builds them. I got it in 2012, I think, and I've used it a lot for my other band, Oathbreaker. But now that band's non-active, I've tuned it to B, and I'm using it for Amenra as well.
Are those locking tuners?
Yeah, they are some kind of planet waves. They're actually pretty brilliant. Planet wave locking tuners that cut off the string as you tune them.
Oh, shit.
So that's really time saving and super handy thing on tour. It does sound quite different from the Les Paul, in a lot more high trebly because of the maple body.
Yeah. It's also string through. I don't know if you can see this. And it's pretty heavy indeed.
Yeah.
I can feel it.
That's also due to the maple, I guess. That's a bit of a heavier type of wood.
Yeah, it's funny because it's actually a really thin guitar when you're looking at it. Mm-hmm. But weight-wise, it definitely is in the same league as the Les Paul, I'm guessing. All right, so another Les Paul.
Yeah, this one is my number one guitar, basically. I've loved this guitar to death, and that's actually why I don't bring it out that much with Amenra. I use it to record and for some one-off shows when I know it's not gonna be in a van freezing for 3 weeks or something. It's 1996, and just everything you expect from a high-end Gibson Les Paul Custom. Very, very resonant, nice guitar.
All right, so it's crazy that your favorite Les Paul is a 96 and not one of the older vintagey ones.
Yeah, I found that I've had some older ones, some from the early 80s, late 70s, but like construction-wise, I feel that the newer ones kind of work better for me. They tend to feel like more resonant. The older ones have like often those like very thin necks, which they can feel very nice to play, but they warp pretty easily.
Yeah.
And this one has like a more serious, sturdy neck. But yeah, offers a lot of stability. So
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I'm very happy with this one.
Are those the stock pickups that are in?
They're actually not the stock pickups. I also went through a phase where I had put EMGs in this guitar, and I lost the stock pickups back then. But I've put like the same set in like a Gibson 498 T and 490R pickups. So
is it close sound-wise with the other Les Paul, since it's the same kind of pickup?
It's close, but it's not. This one sounds a bit better. Sounds a bit bigger still than the other one. Yeah.
All
There's
right.
a noticeable difference.
Okay, so now that we've taken a look at all of the guitars you brought along, this might be a good time to discuss what tuning you're using.
Amenra is mainly in B standard. Almost all of our songs are B standard, and a few songs are like a DADGAT variant, but in B, which would be B, F sharp B, E, F sharp B.
Okay.
And yeah, the acoustic is just E or DADGAT.
Okay, and what strings are you using?
String-wise, I have D'Addario's 1356, and for picks, someone recently turned me onto these Pick Boy carbon nylon picks, which work really well for me.
Okay, how thick are they?
I think this is a 1.14. Yeah.
Okay, cool. This might be an excellent time to take a look at the elephant in the room, the big stack.
These amps are for my heavy tone. The main amp I use live is an Ampeg V4. I believe this is like a 70s model, like a bit of a later model already. And the way I use it, it's set completely clean, and all of my distortion or gain comes from the pedalboard.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
It looks really good for being a 70s amp, I must say.
Yeah, it was well preserved somehow.
So this one is also pretty different from the V4B, which is the bass amp. I'm guessing because you have the distortion feature and a reverb.
Yeah, I know that definitely the reverb, the bass version doesn't have the reverb, and I'm not sure like if the distortion is something. I think that's on all V4s that came like from a certain point on in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have a V4B at home still. That's a bit older, and yeah, that one doesn't have the distortion. For instance.
They close tone-wise?
Yeah,
because since it's voiced to be a bass amp, it does have a lot of low end, a lot of power in there.
I have to set the EQ a bit differently, but with doing that, I can get really close tone-wise.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique type of sound. Because I don't know, it's massive. It's not like Marshall type or more high gainy stuff.
Yeah, no, it's definitely its own beast. This amp, it has broken down a couple of times on me, but yeah, I think tonally for me, like the advantages outweigh the disadvantages and the heaviness and sometimes the unreliability.
All right, it's part of the charm, I guess.
Yeah.
Then we've also got this Marshall head.
Yeah, this is a JMP 2203. So I guess that would be more or less the same as like a JCM 800 2203. Yeah. I like, there's two ways that I would use this. I would use like the low input with the preamp cranked all the way up, and that way it's also like a pedal platform, like very clean.
All right, so it stays clean even when the preamp is...
Yeah, I think that's not the case with all of these Marshall amps, but this particular one, yeah, it seems to be like maybe a little bit cleaner than a normal one. And yeah, but I also sometimes like just use it on the high channel and with the preamp somewhere around 5 and like an overdrive pedal to really push it into high gain territory.
All right. How many watts is this?
This is a 100 watt amp.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then cab-wise, I can see it's a Mesa.
Yeah, this is just like the standard Mesa 4x12 for vintage 30s. It seems to be what I gravitate towards for playing live. It's very powerful, big sounding.
Yeah, it combines really well with the V4 head.
Yeah, absolutely. For recording, we switch it up sometimes. We'd use like on our last album, I think we used the Marshall Jimi Hendrix cabinet with greenbacks. I think they have.
All right, so, and I can see it's a straight enclosure, yet it's slanted inside, which is something I've never seen before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we've also got this little box on top. Yeah, if you guys can see this.
This is something our sound engineer Hein swears by. It's a Radial JDX, and it offers like a direct signal to the front of house. So yeah, sometimes the mics can get moved, and even if you move them like a centimeter, sound completely changes, and that offers like a good backup signal, so that there's always sound
consistency.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also pretty different from a standard DI because it actually runs in between the head and the speaker. So you basically plug your head into the DI and then go from the DI to the cab. So it basically takes some kind of an impulse response. I don't know if it's 100% correct, but it definitely gives you a nice image of what the amp sound would have been like mic'd. All right, so maybe onto the clean tones next?
Yeah, for clean tone, I have this Fender Twin Reverb amp here, but actually my main clean tone live comes from this little box, which is a twin tube preamp made by a company called Shiftline from Russia. It's basically the preamp of this combo amp, but with an impulse response, like a cab sim, and it also goes straight to the front of house. So once again, this is to offer our sound engineer like a very stable, reliable source of sound.
So this basically is your main clean tone.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that it has like a through output, so I can go from here into this amp without the tone of this amp being affected. So if we want, we can still mic this up and have like the choice between clean signal from the little box or from the amp. But like either way, there's always this. Even if this mic gets knocked over or something.
So usually the Fender Twin is just for monitoring
purposes. Mostly use it for stage monitoring. Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, like a lot of people have come up to me since I've had this to tell me how great my clean guitar sounds.
Yeah.
So I can highly recommend this.
It's definitely a great little box. All right, so there's a tone block 2.1 on top of there.
Yeah, this is something that I definitely wanted to mention as well, the Quilter tone block, which is, I use it as my backup amp when we're on tour, or like for fly-in shows, I can take this with me. Oftentimes, like backline companies, you can ask for a Marshall JCM 800 or a PV 5150 or something. And what you get is not always like, if you can get like the right amp, but then you turn it on and it sounds like shit because the tubes are completely fucked or something.
I'm guessing most of them probably don't have 70s V4s.
Yeah, absolutely. So then there's always this. It sounds a lot better than what you'd expect from a little box like this. It weighs practically nothing. You can drop it. You can take it with you as like carry-on luggage. It's very, very recommendable.
How many
as well.
watts is it, since it's so small?
It goes up to 200 watts.
Ooh.
So yeah, definitely not lacking in the volume department.
Alright, so this is your pedalboard. It's not world's smallest pedalboard.
I would argue it's also not world's biggest one. I try to limit myself a little bit pedal-wise, because otherwise it just gets like too heavy, too complex, and taking a big board on flights is always kind of difficult and expensive.
Yeah.
So I just whatever fits on here is okay. The rest I don't take with me.
All right.
To start, I have a Boss tuner here. It's like, regular tuner gets the job done.
Yeah, this is the always on version, right?
Yeah, and the newer, always on version, exactly. First up in the chain is this Boss volume pedal, which I use a lot for controlling feedbacks. Like we have some parts where the amp is like on the verge of feedback, and then I can like ride the feedback wave a little bit with my foot. Next is a full tone OCD, the classic overdrive pedal that probably everyone knows. What I like specifically about it is the fact that you can use it at 18 volts, which changes the dynamics of the pedal a bit, makes it sound a lot more amp-like, if you will.
Yeah, it sounds very open, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's an overdrive, but not like in Tube Screamer-like fashion where it completely alters your tone.
No. It's more, nice overdrive across the whole spectrum.
All right, so you keep the drive at noon, I see. So it's still a pretty moderate type of gain setting.
I definitely I use this to contrast, let's say, with my distortion. So it's set a lot cleaner than my actual distortion sound, which is the Providence Stampede pedal. Like all my distortion sounds come from this pedal. It's to me one of my favorite pedals, and definitely my all-time favorite distortion pedal. I think like 10-12 years ago, my friend Cedric from the Belgian hardcore band Rise and Fall went to record at GodCity recordings and came back raving about this pedal that he had used over there. So I ordered one for myself as well, and I really immediately fell in love with it. It's like a super direct, hard-hitting distortion. Very I'm sorry for using the buzzword again, but very amp-like. Not. It doesn't sound like you're playing through like a shitty little box.
Distortion box.
The only disadvantage of this one, and this is actually an older model, is that it has the power cable hardwired to it, and I can only use it at 220 to 240 volts. So if we're playing shows outside of the European Union, I have to take a different one, and I actually just take the newer version of this one.
Different one, yet the same one.
Exactly. Newer version is also really good. The differences are on the older one you can bypass the EQ section, and I actually use it like that. I bypass the EQ, and there is also a boost switch on there to go like a bit heavier even. This newer one, I would say, is like a slightly more compressed sound. Like for instance, in my death metal band Living Gate, I would use this newer one because it has more of that high gain, typically metal crunch.
All right, so tonally it still is quite different from the... How old is this one actually?
I think this particular one is somewhere around 10-12 years old. I guess that's like... I bought it just right about when they stopped making them.
All right.
Then I have this MXR carbon copy delay, which is like the the ideal delay for people who don't know that much about delay, like myself. I would say it's really 3 controls, very simple, very natural sounding as well. I would say unlike the digital delay, which has like hard repeats. This like degrades very, very naturally, very nicely.
Yeah. So in what case would you use this, like on your clean sounds, or more like as
I mostly use it on like lead parts, like to make lead parts a bit bigger, livelier. On those parts, I would use it like in conjunction with this TC Electronic Hall of Fame reverb. This is like a very, very super simple, basic reverb pedal as well. You can like load different settings into it with your phone, but I've never actually done that. Like this is still the default setting that it had, which is probably Hall.
It's a TC classic kind of Hall sound.
And this one I use both on heavier tones, like for instance when I'm tremolo picking and stuff like that to make notes blend together, or also like on the clean sound. It's my like most basic reverb. I actually never play clean without any reverb.
Okay.
And then there's actually 2 more reverb pedals by Oathbreaker devices. The first one is the Levitation, which is to my ears like a very pristine, pretty sounding reverb. It adds like a bit of modulation, I would say.
All right.
In Amenra we have like a lot of delicate clean parts, and this livens them up really, really nicely.
So is it a long reverb you're using?
I set it pretty like there's this switch which you can set to short or longer, and I always use it on long.
All right.
And the other one is the Afterneath, which is more like the crazy brother of the board. Like it's very like a cavernous big. It takes some figuring out like how to set it, but once you found it and you tame it a little bit, like you can't have you can do what you want, of course, but I never or rarely turn up the mix too high, but that way it adds a super nice layer of sound. Like for instance,
it's also a pretty long reverb, I guess.
This is definitely a long one. Yeah. You wouldn't, I guess, use this for a short reverb. I like mostly use it on slow clean parts where space between notes can be like a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
This makes everything.
It adds a bit of sustain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it has like some mini reverb, mini delays in there that you hear in the background, and yeah, very nice.
And do you use it also on your distorted setup, or?
It's not the ideal reverb, I would say, to use with like when you're playing normal heavy parts. This gets a bit too muddy, too crazy.
Yeah, because I noticed that when we were recording, you even use some kind of delay on regular riffing, like chord type parts.
Yeah. Sometimes I use the carbon copy, maybe on parts where you wouldn't expect it that much, but I sometimes feel that those kinds of things make the notes blend together better.
All right. And do you stack them also?
I like on the clean sounds. I would sometimes I use like the whole bunch of them. Yeah. For my biggest craziest sound, I just turn this whole row on.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a lot of reverb. Doesn't it get too washy when you're like mixing all 4 at once?
Our other guitar player Mathieu has like more of a drier sound, and I think like I can get away with some more
contrasting
atmospheric
colors.
yeah stuff.
All right, and all of this goes into this big chunk.
Yeah, exactly. Like all of these pedals each have their own separate loop into this switching system, the Providence Spec 2. And that way I can like go, for instance, from a clean signal with these two reverbs on it to heavy with delay, for instance, which would normally be like 4 buttons that I have to hit. Just doing it by clicking one switch. So yeah, it has made my life a lot easier, definitely.
I can imagine. And so this goes out to both amps?
Yeah, it has like 2 separate outputs, one for the cleans, one for the heavier stuff.
Okay, so you can program it that it not only switches pedals, but also switches...
also amps. Yeah. There's even like if you have an amp with that has like foot switching through a jack, you can even program it to do that for you.
Oh.
So yeah, it makes it really interesting. It's also like super, like this particular system is super easy to program, even when you're like performing and you think of a combination of pedals that you want to program. You can like with your foot just quickly go into direct mode.
So you can do it on a fly.
Yeah, it's really easy, bonehead simple.
Okay, nice. Maybe it's time to take a listen to some of your sounds in action.
All right.